Hello and welcome to Efficient Brewing. By this point you have watched a number of videos about efficient brewing, about how to set up the brewery, how to add the beer types, which we now have here, about our brew plan, and then the next part is actually about the power of efficient brewing. So it's about the scheduling. So what we have now is that we have this brew plan which has a number of beers. They have different fermentation times and conditioning times. But we now need to work out when we will actually brew those beers, what days, and what fermentation vessels they will use. There are a lot of cases where you might actually go to Excel to do this. There's spreadsheets that you could use to produce a Gantt chart that will be able to manually determine this schedule. But with efficient brewing, it's actually the schedule is done automatically for you. And then so this is the power of efficient brewing and the power of using optimization to determine this. The goal of this schedule is to produce all the beers in a shorter time as possible. So what we might end up finding in our schedule is that some pilsners, while they have been put in here later, they might actually be produced earlier because they take such a long time. We need to actually produce them earlier in order to complete everything faster. If you wanted to change when they might start, you would actually add a start date, or if you wanted to have them due earlier or later, you'd add a due date as well. But now let's get to the schedule component. So we go over here to the left to build schedule. And so as with anything, when we're updating in efficient brewing, we need to set a start date. And this is because you could be producing a schedule in the past or in the future or just for today. And so you can select a date that works for you. So I'm starting from Tuesday, which is Tuesday the 4th of March. Now again, there's no schedule that we have here because we haven't done anything at this point. So we actually want to generate the schedule. So in the past, I would imagine that what you used to do would be working on some calendar or working on some spreadsheet to determine when these beers should be produced. For efficient brewing, all that you need to do is hit this generate schedule button, and it's going to produce the schedule for you. This can take some time. It's not going to be immediate because we're actually trying to solve an optimization problem. As you would know if you've done this by hand, it is very, very time consuming. Using a computer means it's going to be much faster, but it doesn't mean it's going to be instant. So we do need to wait a little bit. So I'm going to hit this generate schedule button and I'll come back with the actual schedule. Okay, so we've now produced the schedule. We have our 4 fermentation vessels here. Now, one thing to note is because the goal of this optimization is to produce the beers as quickly as possible, and we actually have some longer running beers, so we have a Pilsner and 2 Pilsners and a Lager, it does actually space it out. So we're not actually using all our fermentation vessels at once. We will actually get to more capacity later, as you can see, but initially, because we're starting from scratch, we actually don't have everything being used at once. So what we find is that we start off with a Pilsner and then a Pale Ale. And so these are being produced first, and then the next one to be produced would be another Pale Ale. And so we can see down the bottom here a table of the activities that are happening in order. So we have on the 4th, we're going to have a brew kit, put the Pilsner into the brew kit, and then on the 5th, it's going to go into fermentation vessel 3. And then on the 5th, we're going to have Pale Ale going into the brew kit, and then on the 6th, it's going to start in fermentation vessel 2. Now, in reality, they are going in on the same day, but the start of fermentation within efficient brewing is said to be the day after you've made the beer in the brew kit. So we can see this Gantt chart above, and I'll just scroll through this to see the different beers that are being produced. So we have a second Pale Ale that's being produced there, Pale 8, which starts on the 20th, and then we have Pils number 6, which is then starting on the 25th. Then we have Pale 2, which is starting on the 27th. So now we have some IPAs that are being produced, and then our lager, it gets produced. So if we could actually add more now, we could add more to this schedule. We could go back into the update and add more beers to the brew plan, and then we would actually see and then we could add them to the end of this. We could set the start date somewhere in between and then add them intermediately. But this is our schedule that's being produced now. So if we want to, the next videos that we will look at is where we can actually modify the schedule. There may be some features that we want to change. You may actually want to add a beer in the meantime. And so they'll be in upcoming videos that you can have a look at. So again, with anything with Efficient Brewing, we need to save our changes in order to save the schedule. And then we now have our schedule that is being produced by Efficient Brewing. Thank you.